All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of Lunch with LeAnn. We are so excited. We have a great guest here today. Jayne Robinson with Idaho Unclaimed Property is going to talk to us about what it's like to be really the person who gets to give people money, which what a fun job that is. And we're really excited to get into that. So Jayne, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me, LeAnn. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah. So we here at Lunch with LeAnn, we invite guests and we have this really brief conversation with guests around what they do in the community that helps us live our independent lives. And right now, we are in the middle of our series celebrating the 30 years of the ADA, which is just such an exciting time to be celebrating something right now. So Jayne, we're really excited to have you here. But it's lunchtime, so we gotta first talk about our lunches. Jayne, what did you bring for lunch today?
Well, I, like you, LeAnn, love my Instapot. So I'm going to try to do this and not lose it on my computer screen. I have roasted pork roast with from the Instapot with spicy mustard. And then I've got a great salad with these itty bitty, teeny tiny baby cherry tomatoes that were grown by my neighbor. So that is my lunch today. And my sweet neighbor that brought over tomatoes brought over this thing that I've never seen before. Do you know what that is?
Well, my guess is it's a squash of some kind.
Bingo, it is. It's actually called a patty pot. I've never seen these. It's so cute. I almost want to keep it on the table. But it's a type of squash. I had one last night, the first one ever, and roasted it in the oven with a little Parmesan cheese and salt and pepper, and it was delicious, actually. And it was grown with love. It's a neighbor food, so it's fantastic.
Yeah,
what are you having?
You definitely know your farmer. Well, I'm having this wonderful little burrito that I put the sides right here so you can see what's the inside. And again, I use my pressure cooker and my Instapot to make this lime chicken. And so it's chicken and lime. And then I'll try not to slide it off, have my garden tomato right here.
Fantastic. Your tomatoes are a lot bigger.
we have lots of cherry tomatoes, but this one my husband harvested and put on the counter last night. And so I just snagged it today and put a little salt and pepper on it. We have 9 tomato plants.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just have a good neighbor. I don't have to garden.
Well, that's great. It's good to have good neighbors. So wonderful. Well, one thing I like just as much of food is money I didn't know I had. So let's jump into Idaho Unclaimed Property. And Jayne, why don't you tell me a little bit about what is Idaho Unclaimed Property?
Oh, I'm glad to do this because I never knew it existed until about 2 years ago when I landed this job. We actually work for the state of Idaho Treasurer's Office. And so we are all state employees, and we're not scammers. And what it is that people will lose track of money. And so when we use the word property, it doesn't mean a piece of land, a house, a boat. It means money. But that is a term that is used universally across the US anyway for unclaimed property. So it's things that are not tangible, just money. So it's money that's been lost by people like you, and we are in the custodians of the money for citizens of Idaho. I think you're on mute.
I am on mute, and that's even funnier, guys, because we were just joking about that before we went live. So, Jayne, where does this money come from? Is there just a mystery bank somewhere, or is there that money tree we've all heard about? That
it's so funny because 98% of the people that we work with would say, I've never lost my money. I'm living check to check and I'm pinching every penny. And I was one of them, to be honest. But my first week on the job, I looked up my own name and there was $300 sitting there. And I'm like, this can't be. And so in my case, what it was my husband and I sold a house. We had lived away for a year in Florida, came back, sold the house, And a year later, or 2 years later, a company was holding this refund on our closing, but they didn't know where we lived because the forwarding expired in 12 months. And so I was able just to show my ID, my social security card, and I got a check for $300. So other examples would be if you've opened up a banking account and then you've moved, or maybe you kept that $100 balance in there and then you forgot about it, or you opened it up at Moscow when you were going to school, or that sort of thing. You forget about it, and then you don't keep people informed of like where you've moved to and that sort of thing. So if you're not using those accounts, they become dormant. And once the company tries to find you and they can't, then they have to, by law, turn the funds over to the state of Idaho.
All right. So there's this money that is out there. How do we find it? You mentioned you looked up your name. So can you tell us a little bit about how we could see if we have money in our name?
It is so unbelievably easy to do this. So it feels like, I feel like the fairy godmother. It's just that easy to reunite people with their money. So we put all of the properties that are owed to Idahoans out at our website, and it's called yourmoney.idaho.gov. And you can go to that website and you simply just enter your name. So there's a search button that you push and it will ask for first name, last name. And then you can also put in things like city and that sort of thing to narrow down your search. So for example, my name, Jayne Robinson, I spelled Jane, Jayne. There's not too many Jayne Robinsons in Idaho, so I wouldn't have to put the city in. But if my name was Jane Jones, I'd want to be sure to put the city in to narrow that search down. And if there's something there that's your name, you click a button that says claim, and you fill in the information, and a form is emailed to you, or you can request it sent through the mail. And it will ask for proof of identification, and it will go through a process of verifying that you are the owner, and then you'll receive a check from the Treasury office.
Wow. Well, that sounds awesome. So is there a fee for all of these forms, or, what is this going to cost me in order to go to this website and search my name?
I'm so glad you asked that, because this sounds really, when you think about it, too good to be true, right? So there is never, ever a cost. There just isn't. It's part of the state government. So in fact, every state in the United States has an unclaimed property program that's run through their state government, and no one will ever charge a fee. So if you're receiving a postcard in the mail or emails that say, for a fee, I can find money for you, run away and look for somebody that's tied into a state government, because there is no fee at all. We're glad to help you find your money. There is a type of business that pops up that's called an air finder or an asset finder. They are not necessarily scammers, although some of them are. They are verified air finders that will work with people to try to find money. But we don't encourage that here in Idaho, because we'll do it for free, and they want to take a percentage of what they find. It's always on a contingent basis with them.
Right. So that's great. So if I put in all this information, I mean, you have to verify my identity. So I am putting in a lot of information that's personal. So where does that information go? How secure is that?
All of these great questions, which is good. We need to be secure about our information. So we have the same level of security as the Idaho State Tax Commission or any of the other government agencies, but we never share the information outside of just our division. So it never would go to any other Idaho agency. It's never sold on a list. It's never published anywhere. It is used only to verify that that truly is your money. And so it's all safe and secure, truly. I do have another tip too. As you go through the claim process, when you push that button, file a claim, you'll get a list of documents to provide. And it might say, birth certificate, or if you're an heir claiming on a parent, might ask for a death certificate, and it will list those out. Sometimes people will be like, oh, I don't know if it's worth it or not. It can many times be worth it, because on the website, you'll see maybe it will say claim more than $100 is available. could be a lot more than $100. And the higher the amount you're claiming on, the more documentation that we need. So if it's, you know, $20,000, we're going to need a lot of information to really show that you are the LeAnn you say you are, and that there's not another LeAnn living in northern Idaho with the same name.
Right, right. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. So how much have you guys given away to
Oh
date?
my gosh, I love this number because it's changing every day. We've got 4 very dedicated claims agents that work really hard. So since the first of the year, this year, we've given away $3.5 million, which sounds phenomenal. But get this, we have $149 million available to Idahoans, current and past Idahoans, 149 million. We only have, what, 1.5 million that live in the state. So think about that. And like I say, so many people say, no, I know where my money is, but it's out there.
It's worth checking out. So how is that, like you mentioned this year, so is this a constantly updating database, or do you get it at a certain time, or should we check it every 6 months? What would you recommend?
That's great. So every business in Idaho and even in other states that are holding property that belong to Idahoans need to turn in their money to the state treasury's office, to the Unclaimed Property Division, by November 1st of every year. So those checks start rolling into us usually in the October timeframe. And then we work them in November and December and make sure that all balances out. And then we get it loaded up to our website by January 1st. So it's a good thing, new year, new dollars, go out and check your name and see what's out there. Some can come up if you've had like property sold at an auction through like a county, they might trickle through, but we hold your money forever. It's never, ever going to go away. Forever. If it's a penny, we'll hold it forever until you or your heir comes in and claims it. So, but check at least every year. And I would recommend after the first of the year.
All right. Well, I know I checked. It reminded me to check, Jane, this year. I hadn't checked this year. So I'll put my reminder for January too. I like that. New year, new money.
Also, you know, I want to just put this tip out. When you are searching, if you have a common name and you're not sure if the property is yours or not, like I mentioned, if I was Jane Jones in Boise, there might be, 30 claims that might be mine. If in doubt, go ahead and claim it, because if it's not you, the claims agent will just drop that from the claim form. There's no harm, no foul. You're not going to be penalized. Nobody's going to call you and scream at you. So go for it, and also if you have a name such as Robert, you should look for Bob or Rob or just initial art. LeAnn might be L-E-E or L-E-A or that sort of thing. So look for different spellings of your first name. If you have a last name that is misspelled often, look up that misspelling, because when the money is reported to us, we cannot manipulate or modify the data in any way. So if the name has a typo in it, that's exactly how we have to post it up.
Yeah, and I know my maiden name, I had Dolly-Powell. So I often will search Dolly and Powell and Dolly-Powell because we'll find different things if I just search Powell. Sometimes
and also, I want to say that you can look for other people out there. You can search for family, friends. You can look up business names. However, if it's not your money, you have to call that family or friend and say, you need to file a claim, because you can never claim on anything that is not yours unless you are the heir to that money.
Oh, great, great, good information. So Jane, we're here because it's a 30-year ADA celebration, and you're one of the supporters of our Idaho celebration, and the Unclaimed Property is. So can we dive into, maybe you can share a little bit about what the ADA means to you?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share that. I was a technical recruiter for Hewlett Packard and some other high-tech companies. And my undergrad is in sociology with an emphasis in human resources and ethnic diversity, because I've always have loved diversity. I just value that. I don't want my tapestry of life to be monochromatic. I want it richly textured with with people that you would never be able to put a label on. They're so diverse. It's just been a passion of mine. So it's always been a huge part of my recruiting and my HR and just the way I live my life. The other thing too is that this is a small story, but it was an eye opener for me at the time. Way before ADA, or a few years before ADA, my 3-year-old broke his leg up skiing, and he was too little to do crutches. So he was in a wheelchair for about 3 months. And during that time, my eyes were really opened to how difficult it could be. For example, if I would take him into a business, I remember going to a local hamburger joint, and the place to park the car in a handicap spot or a special spot was probably 8 car lengths from where the ramp was. So the only way to get to the ramp was to roll him behind parked cars, which didn't feel right to me. And then the doors at the business, the outside doors would open one way and the indoor doors would open the other. And here I'm trying to get this wheelchair in, and it was impossible. So that really made me aware. I think ever since then I've watched for things like that. How accessible is this? And then the thing that I also really realized, and I'll get a little emotional because that was heartbreaking, when people perceived that my son was not normal, they didn't see us. They walked around us. They would go in a different door, and here I'm struggling to open a door with my child, and it's nobody should live like that. That's no bueno. So that was my kind of my real personal interest. But you'll find this interesting, I think. I have a beautiful stepdaughter named Megan Oz Robinson, and she has worked for Canine Companions for Independence at their California campus. This is a picture of her with a few of her dogs. And she worked there for 7 years. She's now up here in Boise. But she's helped many, many people. And one of the greatest things that I've ever done with her is attend the graduation where they actually match the dogs up to their owners. And there's not a dry eye in the place. It's phenomenal. The joy that is on the face of these people that are getting this not only fantastic tool to make their life easier, but like a best friend, that true companion. And it's just mind blowing. It's what we need to do. It's what we need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just opens that graduation. I can just imagine the doors that are opened and the opportunities that now seem that are now available because of that resource that they've been given. What a joy.
It is. It's a pure joy. The energy is amazing. And of course, me being the crier, I'm like, it was so fantastic. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. They usually have about 20 to 25 dogs and owners that are united. And it's been a long process for them to come together. And it's just fantastic to witness.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, we have just about a minute left. So Jayne, is there any final stories or anecdotes or any information you would love to share with the audience
I would love to. So I have to keep this pretty confidential, so it will be anecdotal. But there was, this happened before my time with the division, but there was a man in North Idaho that had over $1 million available, and he never claimed on it. And he was reached out to several times, and finally one of the employees of Unclaimed Property was going to be up north. So he actually went to his home, and the man said he wasn't interested in it. Money just didn't, he lived a simple life, didn't mean anything to him. So a few years later, he unfortunately passed away, but he'd had a niece that was taking care of him. And the niece inherited everything that he had. And by golly, she got to inherit that over $1 million. So that's our favorite stories. There's many of them though. It's not totally uncommon for us to give away more than $100,000 for one person.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is.
That's amazing. That would just be such a joy to be able to give people a gift of that relief, right? If they're going penny to penny, $300 to me would just help. It would be a big asset. So Yeah, we're really glad you joined us today, Jayne. And we are going to go ahead and we'll put that great link that Jayne shared in the comments below. And so you're welcome to go to the Idaho Unclaimed Property website, which can you repeat that for us real quick, Jayne?
Yes, it's yourmoney.idaho.gov.
Go. So we'll put that down there so you can see if you have any unclaimed property out there that the state is very safely holding for you, and is really excited to give back to you. So thank you, Jayne. We appreciate your time today and you sharing your lunch, and that squash was amazing. So thank you again, and we will see you all next week on Lunch with LeAnn. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao.